Hi, I'm Alyssa Cobb, and today we're going to get a primer on some backcountry basics for beginners right from my dad's farm. The very first backcountry strip that I ever flew in and out of right after I had taken a mountain flying course.
AOPA keeps flying safe, accessible, and fun by protecting your freedom to fly. We are the most trusted one-stop resource for all things related to general aviation. Become an AOPA pilot today.
So I'm here at my dad's farm in West Virginia on a grass strip. It's less than 1,800, has a dog leg in the middle, and it's down in a bowl, so it's an interesting approach. It's a lot of fun. Backcountry flying is demanding, and you can't settle for anything less than the exact right speed that you need to be on, rate of descent, because it really makes a difference on these strips. So I'm gonna go full power with the brakes on, then I'll release, and I'm gonna have a little turn as I first start coming out and taking off, and then I'll be off before the dog leg and climb out in a curve to kind of climb up out of the bowl, get above the ridge line, and then I'll circle around and get a good overview of the runway before I set up my pattern, come back in and land. Wind is pretty calm. It's been going up and down a little bit, so I gotta watch that, especially if I come out of the dog leg, just airborne and then hit tailwind. So wind is always a very serious consideration when you're operating at backcountry strips. All right, bringing my power in. The engine's sounding good. Oil pressure, temperature looking good. All right, nice. All right, engine instruments are all green, releasing the brakes. All right. Have a little turn here to make on the runway. I've got my tail up. And now I'm climbing out. Oh, the nose just a bit, get my airspeed up, just following the runway out here. Wind is pretty calm. There, I'm climbing nicely. And pitching right around 62. I'm gonna come up over this short ridge. And I've got some valleys coming up that'll give me a little bit of time. Get up above the ridge line here. I'm going to fly my pattern at 1,500 feet, but I'm going to level off at 2,000. It'll be a little bit higher doing this pass. All right, so I have the runway in sight, right down there in the bowl. The easiest thing to pick out is actually the wrapped round bales in white. They look like a row of marshmallows. So that's a really easy way to find the field, and then you can narrow in on the strip. The color difference between the mowed hay and the runway, the different shades of green, make it easier to pick out. So this strip is it's less than 1,800 feet long, but has a dog leg in the middle of it. My goal is to be landed before the dog leg. I've made the mistake before of coming in actually being my flare, that dog leg. It makes things really difficult. So my goal is to be down before the dog leg and rolling out. Plenty for that. So actually, now you can see down in there, you can see how the runway curves just a bit. I'm gonna fly around it at 2,000, up a little bit higher, get a good view of things. Then I'll come back around and I'll do it at 1,500. So this is the first backcountry strip that I attempted after I had done a mountain flying course in McCall, Idaho. I went through the McCall Mountain Canyon flying course with Lori McNichol's team. One of the key things that I took away from it is they taught canyon operating, canyon speed, and they recommend you use it anytime you're operating below the rim in a canyon. So what the canyon operating speed is a safe, slower speed that you're operating at, so that if you need to make a quick turn or something, you can easily do that. What I like to do is I like to set my downwind up at canyon operating speed, because In my Cessna 170, that's with 20 degrees of flaps and about 70 miles an hour, and trim it out. It's very nice. And then on my base, I go 30, sometimes 40 degrees of flaps, 40 definitely by final, and I'm slowing up to 55. So by already being at half flaps and 70 miles an hour, you know, it's just 2 notches of flap configuration change and 15 mile an hour difference, and for me that makes it a lot easier. So now I am downwind. When I'm lower, I'm going to lose sight of that runway a little bit, so I'm noting what is ahead that I can double check to make sure that I'm on course line, and then I see that I'm going to have a ridge ahead of me, and I'm going to be turning in a valley just in front of that ridge. And I'm noting the landing areas. There are some fields down there that I have as possible engine outs. Now I'm coming in around on my base leg, and I see the ridge lines that I'm going to be flying by. Again, it's just orienting myself up a little higher with a little bit better visibility and noting what I'm going to be looking at as I'm lower for the times that I lose sight of the runway. Alright, and then I'm going to turn final right over a ridge, and then I'll be coming down over some trees and then making one last turn once I cross the trees. The trees at the end of the runway are actually, it's actually my decision point. If I'm going to go around, I got to go around over those trees. After that, I'm committed. Alright, so I'm going to go around and then get set back up on my downwind. We'll make an approach in, see how it goes. So this canyon operating speed, what they taught is we went through a series of stalls with different flap and power setting configurations straight ahead and in turns, and we see what gives the greatest difference in stall speed. So in my airplane, what works for me is 70 miles an hour and 20 degrees of flaps, so 2 notches of flaps. That's what I'm going to set up with. They typically said, you know, the first 10 or 20 degrees works for most aircraft. But I highly recommend a mountain flying course. Obviously I recommend theirs because I've been through it, but any kind of mountain flying course and backcountry course is really beneficial because it helps build your confidence, get lots of knowledge, and then you feel like you can start practicing at easier strips and working your way up in difficulty. So I've got the runway here on a crosswind. Alright, I'm at 1800. I'm going to start my descent here. Turning my downwind here. I'll start slowing up as well. Alright, mixture's going rich again. Alright, so I have lost sight of the runway, but I have my point straight ahead. So I'm going to level here. I know that I'm paralleling the runway. Alright, I have the end of the runway in sight again. Flap operating range, I'm going to go ahead and get the first 10, almost at 1500. Alright, 20. Alright. 70, I'm going to go ahead and trim myself. 1500 feet, 70 miles an hour, 20 degrees flaps. I'm going to turn my base leg now. Go 30 degrees flaps. Still see the runway. Now I've slowed up to 60. I'm going to do final approach at 55 miles an hour. At 5 miles an hour it makes a difference. It can mean landing before or in the dog leg. Right, so I'm coming along the ridge. Got a little bit of wind pushing me here. I'm going to go ahead and go 40. Right, now I am flying actually right at this next ridge line, and when I get close I'm just going to hug it so that I can start getting set up for final. Okay, I'm coming in, hugging this hillside. There's a little bit of an illusion because of that dog leg, so I really do need to come right along this and hug it. 60 miles an hour, I'm going to start slowing up to 5, a little bouncy here. Here's 55. I've got these trees right here. Coming in right over. All right, power's out. Have a little adjustment here to make. All right, coming in. There we go. There we go, rolling it right on. I am down before the dog leg here. There we go. It makes it just a little nice turn here. Got to stick all the way back. Love coming up above the ridges. Alright, first touch flaps coming out. Accelerating nicely. Alright, next notch is coming out. So a key thing with the backcountry flying is to know when your outs are and what those outs are. Not just a point in which you're committed coming in on landing for your go-around decision, but if you do go around, you know, what are your options? You have an engine out, where are the fields or areas that you can land? So as I'm flying around, I'm noting cleared ridge tops, noting large fields. On my base, I'm gonna keep it at 65 here just for a little bit. I still plan to be slowed up to 55 to 60, but we'll see how this helps further out here in the pattern. I am getting a little bit of those bumps. So I am 60, I'm just gonna power a little bit the way it is. Now I'll start my descent. Come over different trees here. 55. Right, I'm actually going to go around because I feel high going in that way. Again, I'm just coming out to the right. This was the plan that I established. I made the decision right at those trees. That was my decision point. Didn't feel good to be committed at that point. If I'm in at 62, I'll just come around and try again. So the change in wind right there in that cove in the ridges is making the approach more difficult. It's harder to keep a constant rate, constant airspeed, and to judge everything and being close to the terrain. And I'm already configured. When I did my go around, I went from 40 to 20 degrees of flaps with full power. And climbed out, and I've just worked my power, and I am already with 20 degrees flaps in, 70 miles an hour. Alright, power's coming out. I've got it. Just readjusting here. Added just a touch of power to set that one down easier. That felt a lot better. I just didn't get as close to the ridgeline. That helped me not get burbled quite so much.
It's a beautiful day, beautiful evening for some backcountry flying. Hope you learned a few tips for beginner backcountry basics. The key takeaways are to make sure you have your pitch and power settings, your pitch and power management set. You want to be on your airspeed, have your approach descent rate nailed, be configured in the aircraft, have everything stabilized. You can't give yourself any slack. You can't be 5 miles an hour off. The margins are a lot smaller on backcountry strips. So Let me know what it was like the first time you landed on a backcountry strip, and if it's still one of your goals, let me know where you want to go. And like and subscribe to get more of our videos, and stay tuned, we're going to have some more beginner backcountry flying videos coming out in the coming weeks.